Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of Bizarre Matchups Community Stance Edition. Today we got Badfinger versus Deadman's Dice. Badfinger is actually a stand of mine that I've created. Deadman's Dice is a stand from member of the community, Bob_1233. The art that you see on screen is made by himself. The art of the stand Badfinger was made by member of the community, Prince Marciano. And I have to say, you did an incredible job with this stand. It looks absolutely amazing. Now let's go over the rules real quick. The battlefield will be a typical city, no other humans are there, moral rules are off, and anyone can use anything to their advantage like cars, buildings, etc. However, let's get into the stands. The stand Badfinger has one signature ability, and this is to basically store momentum of anything that he points at with his right hand or his right pointer finger. This doesn't increase his speed, strength, or anything. He's just able to release this momentum with the other hand. So where he points at, the momentum will basically be transferred to. How it impacts the object that Badfinger points at is dependent on the momentum that he absorbed. It will always have the same force, but not the same shape. And what I mean by that is that basically if a knife was thrown, the momentum that Badfinger releases won't be a stab. It will still only be the momentum of the knife that is moving through space. So basically the hit will always be blunt. Also, the area that is affected by this ability is dependent on what kind of momentum was absorbed by Badfinger. And what that means is basically if you throw a rock, the impact that Badfinger is releasing with this ability will have the size of this rock. If, for example, something very big, like a car, is moving very fast, he can also use the same area of impact that a car would have if it would crash into something. So basically the area that something would have if it in the current momentum would hit something will be the area that the ability has when it is released. These rules always account to this ability, but it doesn't have to be on objects specifically. The ability of Badfinger can be used on anything that is moving. Of course, things that do not move very fast won't even leave an impact on anything, or a very little one. But he can also utilize storms, big waves, even things like lightning. Also, Badfinger has a Go Beyond-like ability. For those who didn't read Part 8, Go Beyond is an ability in Part 8 and is basically an evolved ability of the one before. And this ability is called Change the World. To activate it, Badfinger has to point on the ground and basically absorbs the rotation of the Earth for a split second. The effects on the enemy are similar to spin and basically leave a very devastating attack with the force of the Earth moving. But for the sake of this battle, we won't use this ability as it really is pretty strong. When it comes to Badfinger's stats, we got an D in power as his physical attacks, aside from his ability, almost do no damage, an A in speed, an S in range, as it is his sideline basically, and D in durability, a C in precision, and an A in potential. Let's move on to the stand Deadman's Dice. And this stand revolves around dice. And with these dice, the stand utilizes a very interesting concept. Basically, the stand is able to throw dice around and place them on the ground. Anywhere around these dices, the stand can be projected and move up to 2 meters away from it. Also, of course, he's able to be projected around its user, and then there's 5 meters. However, this is not everything. The dice have a lot of abilities. 5 to be exact. The first is what I just explained. He can basically almost teleport to these dice, but it is a movement. The second ability is to throw 2 dice, which will create a laser between them, which is probably harmful. And to that I want to note that I imagine that these dice can be somewhat controlled and do levitate. The third ability is basically just an explosive dice. And the fourth is to create barriers in between 3 or more dice that were thrown. They will connect with the same lasers from the second ability and basically create a barrier in between them. The fifth ability is basically a combination of many of the other abilities. It's more of a move than an ability. The stand throws 5 dice around the target or around his own user and really quickly dashes from one to another, always leaving a laser behind basically. This in return will create a barrier that is forming a prison basically. It can be used to protect the user, it can also be used to imprison the enemy. The dice abilities have weaknesses as well though, as they do not work in water and also have a regeneration time. So after one dice detonated or any dice gets more than 20 meters away from the user, they will disappear and have to recharge basically. This takes 1 minute. It wasn't specified how many dice the stand has, but I'll assume around 10, as he uses 5 to move around with his 5th ability and also uses other to create the barrier basically. So let's say about 10. When it comes to Deadman Dice's stats, we got a C in power, an A in speed, a B in range, a D in durability, a B in precision, and a B in potential. Thanks a lot to you, Bob, for this very cool stand, and thank you for your submission. Now let's get to the matchup. I've chosen this matchup because my stand Badfinger relies heavily on the enemy making a move. And it of course has to be a move that he can utilize with his ability. The likes of Star Platinum would probably be a rather easy matchup for him. But Deadman's dice doesn't punch, it only throws the dice around. Which of course their momentum could be absorbed, but it wouldn't leave any impact on the user. I mean, it's a dice, a small little thing just barely thrown. And even when Badfinger is able to somehow utilize any momentum, Deadman's dice still has the chance to protect itself with the barrier. There's one thing though that Badfinger can utilize in the ability kit of Deadman's dice. And this is his rapid dash. He could stop the dash and use this momentum to attack. At this point it is a question of the user though, and how intelligent they are to read the ability they are in right now. But ultimately I personally would give the win to Badfinger. I think the ability to control movement is really strong, and there is this point that he can utilize when Deadman's dice is making a move. But if he stops using his dash, he won't be as agile anymore, ultimately lowering his advantage and his ability to win the fight. But what do you think? Who do you think wins? I will open up another poll so you can go and vote on who do you think wins this fight. Also, if you want to have your stand featured in one of these videos, go over to my Discord and post your stand description there. You can also post art of this stand, which I then will use in my video as well. But you can also just comment your stand description here below the video. I will take a look at as many as it's possible. Until then, see you guys, stay safe, and bye bye.